Welcome back to Dimitra's Dishes. So today I'm going to teach you a very basic and simple recipe that you should have all the time. It's my no-knead whole wheat bread dough, and it's really simple. Let me take you over the ingredients, and then I'll tell you that it has so many uses that you're going to really want to learn how to make it. So you need some lukewarm water, about 100 degrees if you really want to whip out a thermometer and measure it, but it just needs to be lukewarm, not hot and not cold. We're going to need some salt, some instant yeast, active dry yeast, and then we need some not all-purpose, we need unbleached white bread flour, and then we need whole wheat flour also as well. Because the ingredients are just so few, you want to make sure that the flour that you're using is the highest quality that you can get. I love getting organic flours, and that's what I'm using here, and especially the whole wheat. I like it when it's stone ground. I feel like it's heartier and better, and so just that's important that you use really good quality flour. So I'm just going to measure about 1.5 teaspoons of salt here, just with a regular teaspoon. You don't have to go crazy. That's why a lot of people are afraid of cooking, because they feel like they need to have the exact perfect measurement, and they need this special kind of teaspoons and special kind of measuring cups. No, you don't. Trust me, it's okay. 2 heaping teaspoons of yeast in the warm water. I'm just going to give it a little mix. I love this recipe because you basically just throw all of the ingredients together in a bucket or in a big pot, whatever you have, and then you just let it rise for 2 hours. You keep it in your refrigerator overnight before you use it, and then that's it. You have the best tasting bread. It really is like bakery quality bread, and you can use this recipe once it's done to make my whole wheat pizza. You can make the olive bread. You can make Italian breads, or the so many different kinds of shapes of breads. The cheese bread recipe that I make uses this. I mean, it is so versatile. You can make cinnamon raisin bread and actually fill it with whatever fruit and nut you want, and just make your own recipes. It's just this basic dough. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to whisk the salt and the flours together, just so everything is incorporated. You could do this with your hands too, and I should have. And I'm going to put all the flour in this bucket with the salt. Now this bucket is big enough that when this dough rises, and it's going to rise, it's going to double up in size and in volume. This bucket is big enough to hold, in the sense that everything won't start spilling out. And you definitely don't want that to happen, because you don't want to waste any ingredients. Use a bucket that's big enough, or if you don't have a bucket, you could use a big pot. That's fine too. I'm going to pour our yeast and our water in here. And then either with a wooden spoon or with your hand, I'm just going to mix all the ingredients together just until they come together. We're not kneading this. That's the best part of this recipe. You don't have to knead it. You just want the ingredients to come together, and I'll show you what that looks like. So I'm just going to give this a nice mix with my hands. And depending on the flour that you're using and all that stuff, sometimes you might need to add a tiny bit more water, like 1/4 to 1/2 cup more. It just depends. This is supposed to be a really wet and sticky dough, so keep that in mind when you're mixing this. We're not kneading, we're just incorporating all of the ingredients together. That's all we're doing. So that's it. That's what it's supposed to look like once it's done. It's really sticky, but all of the yeast and the water and the flour and everything has incorporated and come all together. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to first of all, I'm going to clean my hands, and I'm going to loosely cover this with the lid or with some plastic wrap, whatever you have. I'm going to leave it just a tiny bit open so the gases can escape, and I'm going to let this sit on the side for 2 hours. And after 2 hours, I'm going to show you what it's going to look like. It's going to rise, and it's going to be double in its volume. So this is what it looks like after 2 hours. The dough has doubled up in size, and that's why you want to make sure the container is big enough to hold it once it rises. And it's become really nice and kind of less sticky than it was before, but it's still a sticky dough. This is what it's going to look like. You want to kind of deflate it a bit press it down, and then I'm going to put the lid back on it completely tightly, and I'm going to put it in my refrigerator, and I'll tell you what we're going to do with it next. All right, so I've been putting the lid back on here because it's completely done rising, and that's all it takes. It takes 2 hours of rising on the counter, no kneading necessary. I'm also going to put the link of the wonderful cookbook that this recipe, I got my inspiration for this recipe from. It's great. You guys should all get it. It's a wonderful cookbook. I'll put it down in the description box. I think you can get it on Amazon. This dough, just like this, can make 3 loaves, 3 1-pound loaves of bread, either nice big round ball doughs, or you can make 3 Italian breads, or depending, you can make little mini breads. You can make pizza, and I told you all the other things that you can make with this. It's super versatile. Okay, so one really important step for this is that you want to make sure it rests in the refrigerator overnight before you bake anything with it. And what that's going to do is going to ferment it a little more and create, the yeast is going to kind of create more air bubbles and make the dough much lighter. Another thing, you know how I made this half and half unbleached white flour and half whole wheat? You can definitely make it 100% whole wheat. The only thing you need to keep in mind is it's going to be much denser. You know, whole wheat is heavier. It's going to be denser and a little more chewy and hearty. It's still going to taste good, but the white flour that I put in here, even though it's unbleached, so it's really still good for you, it just adds a little bit more air and lightness to it, so you get a really nice light whole wheat bread. So again, keep in mind that it has to stay in the refrigerator overnight, at least 1 day, and that's going to create the beautiful texture, those beautiful bubbles that are in the bread, so it's not so dense. And it'll stay fresh for like 7, 8 days, up to 10 days in your fridge. The longer it stays in your fridge, more fermented it's going to get, and it's going to get kind of like a sourdough flavor, which I love, but keep that in mind. So double this batch, make it, and go on my website, get all the recipes, all my bread recipes, so that way you can make some bread tomorrow for your family, and then I'll see you guys next time. Bye, everyone.